Welcome, everybody, and welcome back, everyone, to the ChessKid Youth Championship. We're about to see Group B of the under 16 section. We just did Group A this morning. It was 2 hours of pretty crazy action. It all came down to the final round. And once again, just like in our opening group, I have international master Irene Sukander, still the #1 female player in Indonesia. Nothing has changed since 2 hours ago. Irene, welcome back.
Hi, Mike. Hi. And I'm so ready for another entertainment for the next hours because, well, we've seen so many fireworks in the first group, and now the second group is even going to be crazier, I would say.
Yeah, I think for some of our audience, these names might be a little bit better known, but you're going to get to see some record holders today. We've got 6 kids playing just like we did in Group A. And let's go ahead and take a look, Irene, at the format. It is the same as this morning for those of you who are doing a Saturday full of chess. 6 players per group, a double round robin. The top 2 advance. And Irene, we did not know who the top 2 were going to be until the closing moments of the Group A. That was pretty exciting.
Yes, yes. And well, in this group, we will have another top 2 qualified for the knockout system for tomorrow. And yes, as we are updating the format, so I saw it's going to be ready soon. And yeah, out of these 6 players, man, I cannot choose my favorite. If in the first group I knew who my favorite was, it was Lumiai. And this one, I don't know, everyone seems to be very capable on grabbing the top 2 place in the field. Who's going to be who are you going to root for here, Mike?
Well, as a commentator, I've got to play it cool. However, there are going to be a couple of kids who have a lot of ChessKid street cred, if you want to say. Shreyas Royal has a former show on ChessKid. Maybe we'll revive it one day. Faustino is an official ChessKid ambassador. But you know what? I've never commentated on. I don't think we've had a lot of events. The Abhimanyu Mishra, who's the world record holder for youngest grandmaster. So I'm excited about all these kids. And let's go ahead and meet one of these kids even more closely. It is a name that has been in the news even as of a couple days ago, and that would be Mr. Gold, Faustino, the Faustiman Oro. Oro means gold in Spanish. That's the limit of my knowledge. And he's the youngest ever to reach the rating of 2,300. That means in the entire history of chess, in the 1,500 years of chess. Now, somebody in chat is typing in that FIDE's only had ratings since the 1970s, whatever. He represents Argentina, which is pretty cool. Is Argentina alive in Copa America? Somebody in the chat can let me know. USA is out. And he has played, look at this, 13,000 Chess.com games. I don't know how that's possible at the age of 10. Actually, Irene, I can tell you how we found this kid. He started playing chess during the pandemic. He was streaming in Spanish. And we didn't know he was good. We just knew he was amazingly animated and funny on stream. And I don't even speak Spanish, and I watched his stream. So it was pretty cool that because of pandemic, that's how we played a lot of those 13,000 games.
Right, yeah. Well, we've heard his name all over the chess news these days, and he's breaking one record after another. It's so crazy at only such a young age. He's achieved a lot. And the next one, we also have the highest rated player under age 17. We have Abhimanyu Mishra, and he was also the youngest GM before. Well, now it's going to be broken by Yus Erdogush, but Mishra used to be the world's youngest grandmaster, and he has 1,700 games on Chess.com. But well, it is always a pleasure to have Mishra on the show because he's going to show lots of interesting games. So I cannot wait for his games.
Yeah, games are starting very quickly, but one last player I want to mention would be Shreyas Royal, 2 GM norms. He just achieved a 2,500 rating in Classical, and whenever he makes GM, he will be the youngest GM in English history. He didn't quite make the Olympiad team, but it's probably the last Olympiad that he'll be left off the team. So Shreyas Royal, a very common face in ChessKid land because he is my co-host in the Shreyas Royal Fork. That's kind of the pun, Shreyas Royal Fork. So pretty cool stuff. We've got some record holders. Youngest IM in history, Faustino, youngest GM in history, Abhimanyu Mishra, and we are only seconds away from kicking off. A reminder, Irene knows this, but a reminder, no draw offers. It's a double round robin of 3+1. So we're going to see 10 games a day. Everybody will play everybody else twice. One says white and one says black. Pretty cool stuff. And a couple kids have ratings over 3,000 on chess.com, which is amazing. Yeah, just seconds away. And
Yeah.
I got to play without favorites, okay? Because some of the parents are watching, okay? And some of the parents are like, Mike, I thought we were buddies. But I do know one thing. We're in for a treat because these names are somewhat household names now, but something's going to happen. I mean, one of these kids is going to get invited to Tata Steel in a couple of years, and there's going to be a fan out there that goes, Andy Woodward, I know that name. And it's because you watched him on this show today. Absolutely. Andy, by the way, is playing in the U.S. Junior Championship just announced yesterday. And if anybody in St. Louis is listening, we have the U.S. Senior and the U.S. Junior Championship. The ratings are remarkably close. I would like to see a Skaveningen where the seniors and the U.S. play the juniors because I don't know who would be the favorite. But forget my crazy idea because, Irene, we are off and running. Shreyas Royal, knight f3, just like we began Group A with, against Abhimanyu Mishra.
Yeah, exactly. Well, these two names, we just mentioned it on their cards before. And knight f3, we are going to see some reti type of opening, but it is a very flexible setup. It can transpose to some sort of an English and also other openings as well. So I think we're going to see like quite a very fascinating and you just before I was about to say they're going to be very advanced in their opening knowledge, and we see before the board it
Okay,
is
Irene, help
not
me out. Help me out.
going.
What about e4?
Yeah,
Help the audience
exactly.
out
What
because they're
about e4
wondering.
here? So I guess you just take on the pawn and then you're happy with this sacrifice because you're going to undermine the diagonal of a1 to h8. And I think, yeah, you can see the eval bar is agreeing with me. So this is totally the positional sacrifice that white is hoping for. So no, I don't think Sreyas will fall for that.
Wow, b4 answered by b5. So not only do we not have an exchange sack, we have two players pushing their b pawn. So I was going to say this looked like a reverse open Sicilian, but now I don't know what it looks like. Okay, the knight's in danger, and they got to be a little careful because I wonder, Irene, sorry, I had a syllable because I'm used to working with Irina Krush. Apologize, Irene. What if the pawn comes forward now? This is a problem for white now.
Exactly. So the knight shouldn't jump to b2, but I guess after b5 you can put the knight on e3. It's a more central square so that you still allow for the positional exchange sacrifice on a1, which is a dream. But here, Sferias put the knight on a3, attacking the pawn on b5. a6 is already on the board, and maybe rook c1 is coming soon.
Yeah, one would think so. Rook c1, now we're back to the live position, so thanks for that analysis. And after rook c1, now it's funny because this knight was the subject of our last 2 minutes of discussion, but now it's the other knight that's being targeted in the exact same way. So I would expect this knight to be defended on the next turn. But actually, there's a little bit of care because if you ever put the bishop on this square, then the knight essentially doesn't guard this pawn. And I don't know, maybe after bishop c3, there'd be some tactics coming, but anyway, we'll see. It could be that actually black is willing to sacrifice the exchange of this rook for this bishop in some sort of variation.
Yeah,
We'll see.
that would be, I think that would be possible as well. So I don't think the knight on c6 needs to be protected. So I can, bishop e6 and bishop d5, you are challenging the bishop on g2 with the bishop on d5. I think this is a more suitable approach for black. And I like black's position here because the knight on a3, I don't like it. This is why I didn't mention putting the knight on a3 I'd prefer to have it on e3 because it can jump to a more central square. And now I think the reason why this position is favorable for black is because the knight on a3 is out of play. Of course, you can put it on b1 to c3, but it takes time.
Exactly. I guess the knight went to a3 because Shreyas was in love with the idea of winning at tempo, but the very calm move a6. So let's do some math. Shreyas wins one move, but it's going to cost him two moves to get that knight back in play, which is a net loss. So yeah, the knight looks bad. As Grandmaster Simeon Palatnik calls it a sick buffalo, the idea being that a sick buffalo can ruin the herd. Apologize for the Russian accent. Dani Naroditsky, you're back in charge of accents. And back to our live position. D3 is very weak, and the knight is a sick buffalo.
Yes, yes. And I like how we have to keep doing the principle in chess. You have to have a harmony among your pieces. And yeah, the knight a3 is quite a liability. And the pushing of e2, e3, I don't really like it so much, but maybe this is what the position is called for because if if black managed to put the knight on d4 and then probably some trade and the pawn will be on d4, only black is standing going to be even better. I mean, black is already much better right now, but in that position, it is black who is going to play for a win. Bishop c3 with a question mark there. What is going on? Maybe a move like f5 and then, or okay, I like this move as well.
Very,
Yeah, very subtle attacking a2.
yeah, very calmly. Also getting the queen out of the way because you'd like to target the d3 pawn with a lesser value piece. So yeah, sometimes it's these little itty bitty moves that grandmasters find. And Abhimanyu is our #1 seed, at least when it comes to FIDE Classical. I think Fausti might have a higher Chess.com blitz rating, but certainly in Classical, Abhimanyu's got a little more experience than the young Argentinian. Okay, so e4, targeting this bishop, targeting this pawn, and also clearing out a square for the knight. If you're not careful, the knight might jump.
Yep. So, wow, Abhimanyu just playing all the best move, I would say. And his moves are very understandable and very easy to spot on. And he's not doing anything special, to be honest. But nothing special needs to be done in this position. You just have to keep playing according to the principle. Look at how the pieces that black has, everything is connected, and this is the harmony that I was talking about earlier.
I'm going to show a quick tactic. If you take, I'm not sure it actually wins material, but after takes and takes, something like queen check, and this pin is getting very critical for white with this knight being targeted several times. So this pawn is, of course, a little bit tender. So everything is just weak. Let's go back to our live position and see where we're at. This is live position. So white delayed capturing, but actually results in almost a similar position. The only difference being that black does not get queen to e4 with tempo. So black's looking to form Alekhine's gun. We saw it once this morning, and the rook looks to be coming over to the d8 square. How does white untangle in this position?
Yeah, it's gonna be hard. If you double up the rook, black is also going to play rook d8, and then we have these tripling major pieces on the d file, looking over the knight on d3, and rook here. b4 is hanging, f3, h3 square, they're all hanging. I mean, this is just a matter of time till Abhimanyu wins the game.
Yeah, knight e5 was played instantly. Abhimanyu didn't even think about capturing this pawn. That's how bad the pawn is. I thought that was pretty impressive, and I think Abhimanyu might have some good clock management here by just, playing these moves instantly that he knows are coming and not going after the material. Whoa, self-pins, because I guess he thought his queen was overworked after f4. Now it's actually Abhimanyu that's to figure out how to get out of this mess. He does recover the piece, though. Seems to be doing okay, but only 11 seconds left for him.
Queen b2 with a check, and then queen just come over to f6 soon. Oh no!
Yeah, the queen gets back.
Yeah, queen f6 is finally there. Yeah, and then knight f2 is there. So many things going on. But rook e8 will just seal the deal. Yeah, black pretty much is safe in any way, and Abhimanyu won the first game.
Yeah, a nice win and time pressure there. Really understood the clock well. Let's just very quickly go to Woodward versus Martinez because that game is in its closing moments. So Andy Woodward versus Jaime Ray Martinez, who actually played in the ChessKid Speed Chess Championship a couple of years ago. And it looks like Jaime has the extra queen. It should just be a matter of time before mate and one. And there we go. The Spaniard wins a day after Spain beats Germany. Spain starts off where they win here. Got to get my Euro 2024 fans involved. And there we go. Andy, who's a GM-elect, will look to come back later in this tournament. And it looks like that's a close to the first round. Let me mention one more score. By the way, it was 3-0 for black that round. Faustino.
Yep, and there was a surprise result in the game between Faustino Oro, who lost to Igor Samonenkov. So we didn't get to see that game because the next round is going to be up soon. But amazing. Even without the no draw rule, these kids will just play till the end without any draw offer anyway. So, and we have the stats from the last group, Mike, that there was only one draw in the whole games of group 1 under 16. How amazing is that? Like, all these kids, they're just in the mood of fighting and fighting.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I did not even realize that one draw in 30 games. I don't know if it was king versus king. I don't remember it coming up in our show, unless I'm just got old man brain here. But that is pretty exciting. Black won all 3 games from that round, by the way. And now we are looking at an all Spanish-speaking matchup. There you see Fausti, despite the loss, still has a 3,000 plus Chess.com blitz rating. So Jaime Ray Martinez, winner of round one, playing against Faustino. And this is I think this was a four knights. And in
Four
this
knights, yeah.
opening, yep, I actually played the four knights because I'm an old man. Bishop to d6 is a very clever move. That way, if the bishop ever took the knight, the pawn takes back, and the bishop is well positioned. It's kind of like a Re Lopez exchange, where sometimes the bishop comes to d6 to guard the pawn. So it looks like a weird system putting the bishop in front of the pawn, but it is a known system, and Fausti obviously knows it.
Yes, and this type of setup can be very flexible. You can transpose it to the Spanish. That's why I think you mentioned about the roll-up Spanish before, because yeah, it can be transposed there. And now bishop g5 is on the board. Taking b3 is very important, and now h6 is going to come up at some point, but bishop b7, I like it. You don't forget about development because it is very important still in the opening phase. And rook e8, it's also a preparation move for the bishop to go to f8. With h6, g6 setter, the bishop will be nestling on g7. So this might be just one of the ideas that black will be able to play out.
Yeah, and I've actually got some experience in this system. Often in the four knights, the bishop actually takes the knight. In fact, I think I'm currently playing in the Chess.com daily chess staff tournament where I played this. So hopefully I'm not like helping myself. It's not this position, but the knight rather enjoys that f5 square. And now you can't kick it with g6 because you've played h6. So I don't know if h6 was actually all that useful for Fausti when this knight is obviously coming down. If you play it right away, I totally get your bishop just got himself trapped. I wonder if we'll see bishop takes knight followed by knight here, but then maybe black does have chance to play g6. So there's a tiny little battles going on the king side.
Yeah, and bishop e7 was actually very clever. You're not actually letting the knight takes e5 just like that, because there's also knight takes e4, another counter attack there. So instead of taking e5, white play rook e1, d6, now e5 is safely protected. b4, it is a very typical move in this type of setup to undermine the a6 pawn, and queen d7. So white will be able to play with the two knights and probably trying to get to the f5 square, which is not happening now because of g5. But black will be trying to advance the d pawn if possible. I know it is not possible now because of the e5, but black will try to prepare it. So rook d8 is on the board. This is very natural, although there is nothing to do for the rook at the moment. Ooh, knight g3, inviting for g5, and then white is ready to sacrifice a piece.
Yeah, I was just going to say, let's play knight g3 on the analysis board where the players played it on their own board, because we can sacrifice their pieces for it. It doesn't cost us anything. Now if g5, well, okay, it wasn't played, so now I've got to go back quickly because the players are playing too quickly. But the idea is after knight here, g5, we're going to take once. The pawn's going to take, I don't know what we take with, I guess, the queen to win a tempo.
Let's take it with the queen. Yes,
Yeah.
and then knight f5.
Knight f5, and it's looking really scary. And even if black can defend, which apparently he cannot, it is a big problem to find it with so little time. Let's go back to our live position. And that knight did achieve the f5 square. And as mentioned previously, you can never play g6 when h6 is hanging. So that knight is going to sit there and laugh at black for a little bit.
Yes, but I think what black is aiming here is to push that d pawn that I was mentioning earlier, because this is a very typical idea for black to proceed. But h5 is played because knight g4 might be the idea. Ooh, g4 immediately. I have a mixed feeling about it.
Yeah, and also black is going to blast with d5. There's a 100% chance we're going to see d5 at some point because you need to activate the bishop. You want to take advantage of the rook being on the line. You also wanted to weaken the knight on that square. I actually think I would have played d5 instead of g6, but okay, we're back to the live position. Black could play queen f3 in this position just to be silly. Actually, maybe it's not so silly, but I just wanted to point that out.
I don't think it's silly. Exactly. I think if not king g2, queen f3 would have been the best move on the board, because you're threatening knight h3 with a check, and it's, I don't know, some sort of a checkmating idea coming up soon. But here, having the knight on f4, black can, black can breathe a sigh of relief here because black is totally doing much better.
Yeah, very funny how the tables have turned. We were lauding the white knight for being on f5. Now it's actually the black knight that's even more untouchable. After all, if this knight goes to f5, the bishop could go back and trade it off. So now it's a battle for the g file, a battle for the best outpost on the chessboard. And it looks like black might be getting a little bit better at the situation now. You could take with the pawn and sack this one. But no, then the knight is aiming at f2. That looks like a bit of a risk. So I think
you have to take it with the rook. I think with the rook would be a bit better. Although, yeah, taking with the pawn, and then you're just sacrificing this one. You play rook f1. There's some there's some counter attack that white can do here,
This is actually the live
and
position,
this is
so it
actually
found.
happened. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing job by Jaime Ray Martinez to find this idea. So Fausti is up a pawn. If I'm counting correctly. Yep, up a pawn. But somehow the computer doesn't think that he's that much better. This bishop still not activating. I gave you my word he would play the move d5, but it hasn't happened yet.
Oh, f7 was hanging, Mike, so be careful. Yeah, yeah, so rook f8. But now I think white is kind of a bit okay because in the previous position, black was just much better. Okay,
Ooh,
bishop
bishop g4,
g4.
critical move, and it was found.
That's such a good move. Yeah, you cannot take the queen because black will end up with an extra piece in the end. So queen f2, and the knight on e7 doesn't really look like a good piece. f5, oh my gosh.
Getting rid of the weakness,
Faustino
and
just,
now
yeah.
the number of times this position's gone back and forth between white being the aggressor and black has been kind of amazing. But black is starting to solidify, still has the extra pawn. And this bishop, well, we all know where it wants to go. And so you've got to be really careful. A quick check of the clocks, and Fausti is up 30 seconds to 7. Don't sleep on that. That's going to be super important in the closing moments.
Exactly. Oh, c6, kicking away the knight, and now, well, ooh, d5, undermining the knight's coverage on the center. No, Faustino has been playing such good chess here.
Yep, and he was waiting for his rook to get captured so his queen could take back and he controlled the direction. Oh, but now we're going to see e4, bishop f3 almost for sure. That's the square he's been eyeballing. It's gonna come, right? Bishop f3. Okay, now is it enough? You could just play the endgame with your extra pawn, although there's always a chance of a fortress with the knight guarding all those dark squares. So I'm not sure if Fausti's too eager to trade the queens. He's got 10 seconds against 2 for his Spanish counterpart.
Yeah, exactly. And ooh, takes on e2, and then rook f3 maybe?
Yeah, I can understand this
He's
because there's
willing to
no
go to the
blockade.
endgame.
Yeah, but there's no blockade with the knight off the board. I think that was kind of a nice idea because now you can play a lot of moves. Rook d3 is a move, and well, okay, he didn't have to give that counterplay, but it's probably winning anyway with this active king and the e pawn. Well, I would have just played
I
e3,
totally
but
agree with
okay.
you. Yeah. Oh, just collect all the pawns, not giving your opponents any chance to make a counter attack. And now with 3 extra pawns, of course, you're winning the game. And that's it. It was the first win by Faustino.
Yeah, it
In
gets back to
this
an even score.
group.
And
Yep.
just because we have, sorry to cut you off, we have one game remaining, which is Abhimanyu Mishra against Andy Woodward. I'm going to click over there. Battle of the Americans. 2 queens against 2 rooks. But a mate on the board.
Whoa, that's a checkmate. We just got there in time to see the checkmate.
We
Wow.
certainly
So
did.
Andy Woodward has lost both games. So let's hope that he can bounce back. And it means Abhimanyu is on the perfect score. He has 2 out of 2.
He's the only one on 2 out of 2. Actually, we had a battle of the Americans there, and because Fausti has moved to Spain, he's probably going to be playing against Jaime Ray Martinez a lot over the board coming up. He still represents Argentina, of course, proud Argentinian. The Messi of chess gets back to equal, but Abhimanyu Mishra, the pre-tournament FIDE Classical leader, even if he doesn't have the highest Chess.com Blitz rating, is on 2-0. Shreyas has 1, Igor has 1, Fausti has 1, Jaime Ray Martinez has 1, and Andy Woodward, the GM-elect, is looking to get his first win. And let's go to some players we haven't seen yet. Well, we've seen everybody. We haven't seen Igor. So let's take a look at our Ukrainian friend, Grandmaster at the age of 14. He was the youngest he was the youngest at the time that he made it a couple of years ago. Igor Simonenkov is white against Jaime Ray Martinez.
Yes. And what are we seeing here? Some sort of another, this is Fretti or another Catalan type of position, I would say. Yeah, this is okay, but this type of variation is kind of transposing to one another. Knight h5 is on the board, and usually in this type of position, bishop will withdraw to e3 or to d2, and then black can repeat it once more, like going back with knight f6, and then let's see if white would repeat as well. But okay, castle is on the board, e4, and now the knight on h5 is kind of hanging. I like this e4 moves. It's opening up the diagonal of h1, a8, and at the same time, maybe at some point later, the knight on f3 would jump to e5, and there's attacking the knight on h5. So are we going to see it here? I think this is the right time to play knight e5 if white wants to do it. And he did.
Yeah, I wonder if White was contemplating playing e5 and shutting the knight out of the game to threaten g4. Maybe that would have forced g6. I'm not sure, but this looks reasonable as well. Of course, just going after the knight right away. Now, which knight do you capture? I assume this knight. Now,
E5.
this,
Yeah.
yeah, now g6 is maybe forced. Yeah,
Yep, and you take on d5 maybe, or maybe you can keep it that way and play bishop h6 and play rook c1. You're just attacking the queen side and the center.
yeah, exactly. Just put pressure everywhere. It's not like black wants to take you, of course, because the knight would just hop to e4 and then maybe one day f6. But okay, he just decides to develop a little bit more normally with bishop e3. And yeah, black is 2 moves away from this knight being a real piece. So if nothing else, at some point, black's going to have to invest a lot of time. Otherwise, we have another sick buffalo.
Yeah, ooh, g4. So stopping the knight to go to f5 and probably preparing for some kingside attack as well. Because I'm not going to be surprised if Igor pair it up with a move like f4 and then or h4. No, not h4 now, but maybe f4 and then having a pawn storm in the kingside like that.
Yeah, that's a really interesting idea. And obviously, you do want the position to open up, especially when your opponent has this sort of deficit in space. So bishop to a6, aiming at a bunch of nothing. You know, sometimes in chess, the best way to deal with a strong
Hmm.
piece is to clear out the diagonal, knight e4, taking advantage of the pinned pawn. And if it gets to f6, there's going to be some amazing weaknesses on black's king side.
Ooh, I would play bishop c5 here. I really like to get rid of that bishop so that my knight will not be challenged on f6.
Lovely move.
So yeah, and I don't mind. Okay, if there is a fork like this, of course I'd be happy. If not, I'd like to win it like positional way. But knight f6 is of course the good move here, and the knight is even the knight is even worse now on e8, bishop d4, and then you just want to transpose your queen to h6 and
Yeah.
your rook to the h3. So,
Well,
yep.
it should be noted that's why white did not play g5 because this is the access point to h6. So even though g5 looks like it clamps down, you want to keep the diagonal open. Irene's attack is on point. If the rook gets to the h file and the queen, it is going to be curtains for black. How is black going to deal with this? I'm not sure that move seems to do a whole lot unless the plan is to sack for the bishop. I don't know. If black doubles rooks, white's going to say, take my queenside pawns. I don't care. Somehow the computer says that black is not announcing mate. I'll put it that way. Um, Maybe queen here, just in time. I don't know.
Oh, queen takes a4, and if queen d2 or queen c1, what's going to happen? Because queen h6 is going to be on the board soon. So, how to queen d2? I don't see anything to protect h7. To be honest, how do we do it?
I don't know. Is black like taking and getting a million pawns for the piece? I think he's going to get mated anyway, though, even if he does that. I thought bishop d3 was some sort of brilliancy, but it doesn't. It just hangs a piece. So why are the black pieces going to the queen side and he's not getting mated? Oh, rook b3 was the big idea?
So maybe if you play bishop c3 now, rook takes c3 and that takes f6, and at least you can be safe because the king is not going to get checkmated anytime soon. So rook h4, yeah, you
It's
just want to keep
reasonable.
the ideal. Yeah, but there's queen b4, right?
Wow.
Oh, bishop d3, no, queen h6, g5 and takes. That's it.
Okay, bishop d3, and that's never good news when players are playing my moves. But queen h6 is, I think it's over. I think queen b4 was the difficult to find defense, not too difficult for Irene. But queen h6, it's what you've been gearing up for. It's not hard to figure out that if your bishop gets captured, you're mating on h8. So yeah, okay, took a little bit of extra time, but it was played. That guards
Okay,
h7 due to a discover. Oh, computer says the critical
bishop
move and the
e4,
only move
maybe.
bishop to
Oh,
c5.
bishop f8. Oh, but sorry, yeah, bishop c5 going queen f8. Oh,
And the knight
that's very
can't move
tricky.
to guard because of the mate on g7. Will it be found? Now Igor is taking his time. He's not capturing. Oh, he found it. Did not
He
take
found
on
it. He found it.
move of the afternoon so far. Bishop c5. Wow. Now, if this game finishes in the next couple of seconds, we will move over to see the game between Fausti and Abhimanyu. It looks totally over, but how is White going to finish things off? Rook on e1's
Probably bishop
hanging.
d. Oh, rook e1 is saying I didn't see that. Yeah. Um.
Bishop
So
d4
rook
maybe
c1.
doesn't lose, but you don't want to hang your rook.
Yeah, rook c1 should be fine, I think. What else can be? Or rook e6. Do I dare to play rook e6? No, maybe just queen c5. Yeah, so I don't think that's working. Yeah, maybe just rook c1.
Yeah,
From
seems
the field
reasonable.
here, yeah, rook c1, queen e7. Yeah, just holding on to bishop c5.
Wow. The fact that black has not been mated and the computer actually says that black is now equal because the bishop on c5 is so weak. What a comeback here. And now it's
And black is
desperate times
actually
because,
winning now.
yeah, how do you break through? This was amazing defense by Jaime Ray Martinez, who has really shown me something here in the opening stages.
Yeah, the key idea here is not to resign, but just try to keep finding all the moves, and only resign when you get checkmated or if you're down on time. But yeah, I like how Jaime is fighting back from a losing position to a winning position now.
Yeah, we had given him up for dead. So if any of Jaime Ray Martinez's parents are watching, we didn't exactly say he should resign, but we didn't have much hope for him. So he's found hope. Um, what's the line when USA scored in 2010 against Algeria? From hope there is glory. That was an obscure soccer reference. I apologize. Rook and 3 versus Rook and 1. Let's get back to chess. No more Landon Donovan references, and should just be a win here. And do want to report that Abhimanyu Mishra has gone to 3-0 after beating Faustino. I promise you, when they play
Ooh.
their rematch, we will cover that game. But
Yep.
wow, there's
Whoa.
almost
Can we just come back to see how Jaime won it? Because he was almost in the brink of getting a checkmate there. Because yeah, the other games have already finished, and I think in somewhere, I don't know, somewhere after queen takes something like on the h6, I just keep going.
too far.
Yeah, I think no, this is good. This is good. I think after queen takes f6 here, okay, queen a5 was played, right?
Yeah, I think the
And then
computer
rook
wanted the
c1.
brilliant move Rook E3,
Ah, I see. No, that is really hard to
which,
find when you have only 30 seconds on the clock, and then yeah.
yeah, if takes,
Okay,
takes. And if takes, now you save your bishop. Your rook is not hanging. Queen E1 is not a problem because of bishop F1. And then all white has to do is wait for this bishop to acquire one of the key squares. And then I think it's toast for black.
I see. Okay,
Wow.
well, it was a good comeback from Jaime from a losing position, and he's showing us, Mike, he's teaching us a lesson not to resign, because when he didn't resign, he actually won the game, so it's a good thing. And I think we're on to our first break.
That's right. Before we go to break, let's take a look at the standings. We'll throw them up on the screen there, and we can see that we only have one player on 3 now. That would be the youngest grandmaster of all time, Abhimanyu Mishra of USA. But we've seen some really impressive chess from Jaime Ray Martinez to get to 2. He hasn't always looked great, but he's gotten the job done in the critical moments. And I'm not going to say GM-elect because he's not, but the GM in waiting, Shreyas Royal, it's only a matter of time, is sitting in 3rd place. Irene, can you round us out there and tell us the remaining 3 players, please?
Yes, and we have Faustino over on the 4th place with 1 point, and sharing also the 1 point is Igor Samonenkov, and on the last place we have Andy Woodward with half a point. So everything is still up for grabs. We still have 7 games to go. Anything can still happen. I'm just going to look forward for all the fireworks of all the games that will come next.
That's right. The top 2 will advance to tomorrow. Before we go on break, I do want to let you know that you can stock up now on chess merch at the Chess.com shop. We've got you covered with fresh new t-shirt designs, mittens, plushies, and accessories. Head to go.chess.com/merch or use the command !merch in the chat to shop now before it's sold out. We may even have some green pawns and some chess.kid.com Peshkas for you. So go head over there now. We're going to have a short break. When we come back, rounds 4, 5, and 6 of Group B of the ChessKid Youth Championship. Fun Master Mike and Irene Sikander will be back in just a few short moments.
Reading people's minds, because then I could make better decisions. when I don't know what to do.
I think I'll have to pick time travel. I mean, it would be pretty cool to go to the past and to the future.
I think it would be the ability to cure cancer. The reason for this is I've seen a couple of my loved ones suffering from this disease. I've seen it firsthand and it's quite horrible.
I would like flying because it's amazing.
这个问题的话呢，我希望我拥有分身术，因为它可以同时做很多不同的事情。
To make people's wishes come true.
这样的话，我可能会选择艺术体操。
I like such games as football, basketball, hockey.
Probably ping pong. I really enjoy playing ping pong.
For example, let's say soccer.
I would pick soccer.
Something like football or cricket. Probably football.
Garry Kasparov, Magnus Carlsen, Robert Fischer.
我最喜欢的棋手是王悦，因为他的残局非常好，而且他对棋有非常独特的理解。
Jose Raul Capablanca because he's a great positional player.
Magnus Carlsen because he's a genius.
Yeah, it'd have to be Magnus Carlsen. Yeah, I think he's just an inspiration for most of the younger generation.
It's Magnus, and the reason for this is the way he's been dominating the world for the past, I can't even remember how many years.
Welcome back, everybody, to the first ever ChessKid Youth Championship. We're taking the place of the former ChessKid Speed Chess Championship. I am FM Fun Master Mike, but my mom calls me Mike Klein, and I'm here with International Master Irene Sukander of Indonesia. Irene is staying up late, and we've both been following the top classically rated FIDE player, Abhimanyu Mishra, roll out to a 3-0 start. Irene, are you surprised that even though he's not the highest Chess.com Blitz rating, that he is currently steamrolling the field?
Yeah, to be honest with you, well, Abhimanyu is one of the favorites, of course, but I didn't expect him to cruising with 3 out of 3 and then having such a good start. But well, Mike, we still have 7 games to go. Anything can still happen. Faustino can bounce back. So does Shreyas Royal and other players as well. And we are going to see Andy Woodward. And he is temporarily now on the last place of the field with only half a point out of 3. And he's going to play Faustino Oro.
Yeah, both these players need a win bad. They're both elect, by the way. Andy Woodward, GM elect. Faustino Oro, IM elect. Faustino is the youngest IM in history when his title is going to be certified. He needed to actually get the norm in his last tournament in Spain in order to get the record. I don't think he had any more tournaments remaining, and he got it with an undefeated score. So both the players needing a win bad. We seem to have some sort of London system. So if you're still asleep, this probably won't help you wake up. But anyway, we're gonna see which of these players can make a splash here and get back to an even score or better.
Yeah, well, we have quite a calm variation in London when 2 bishops are going to exchange up against each other, and we have a pair of knights for each. And now, yeah, I must say, this is going to be very technical and positional, Mike. So I was hoping for some attack on the king side. I don't know, with some rook lift, with h4, rook h3, something like that, but it didn't happen. But now we have a4, and both Andy and Faustino will show us how instructive this game can be. Because out of London, you can actually expect all sort of games. You can play some tactical game, you can play positional game, and now, yeah, I'm just going to enjoy this. How both white and play are going to play this out.
Our viewers might be wondering why white willingly accepted the doubled pawns. It's because when the knight sits here, you can't really drive out the knight except to trade for the knight. And if you trade, then the pawn will take back, white will get a lot of space. And you can't really consider moving the knight and playing f6 because you greatly weaken e6. This is kind of a well-known concept, although I just wanted to explain it because it does look a little bit of weird. Now, black is trying to chop out white's center, but he's also given up the b5 square, which is occupied by a queen. Not a very common place to occupy an outpost with, but really hard to drive out the queen. And there could even be a tactic on the c6 square at some point. But now you really can't take because pawn takes will be a fork. So the queen backs up. Now, if black needs to, black can take on e5.
Yes, and this queen c7 is, I think, the reason why queen c7 was because you won't take on c5 and knight d2 c4 because the queen was on d6 and the pawn on d5 cannot take it. So stepping away from the pin over the rook on d1, it's, I think, quite clever. But I think after occupying both important squares on b5 and e5, white can be a bit better in this position, although everything looks very much equal.
For those of you checking out Fausti's camera, he is sitting in a gamer's chair, and he's actually streaming today. With our permission, he's following all of the rules. Players are allowed to stream. I don't see him talking a lot. It does take time. I know this from personal experience, Irene. I know you do too. When you talk during your games, you're taking literal time just to keep your fans happy. So I'm actually kind of glad to see him staying quiet because I want him focusing on the chess. But I do like how professional he looks in that streamer's chair, even though he's kind of in little stature. So awesome to see him. Well, as we can see from this year's candidates, right? You've got to be a content creator to do well in the chess world. And he's learned that. So kind of cool.
Yeah. I think chess will open so many doors for him. I mean, well, he's already a very strong player himself. He has lots of achievement in such a young age. But I think chess is just a vehicle to open more doors, to open more opportunities. Maybe it's not about playing the chess itself. Maybe he can be something else too that involved that also within the chess world. So, but now in this position, unfortunately, I think white is looking a bit better, although the computer doesn't agree with me. It's just, white has all these good squares on b5, on c6. Maybe it's not enough.
Yeah, I guess white was trying to get rid of the doubled pawn. And if takes, I think white would do nothing terribly fancy and just play check and
Mm-hmm.
grab the pawn back and get a really strong knight. We actually already saw this today. A knight on f5 cannot be repelled by g6 when h6 is hanging, although I realize the king might go to h7. But the knight is very happy, to quote Ben Feingold, knife 5. You're always attacking when your knight gets to f5. Let's go back to our live position. So after f5, instead we had knight e4, and there's a small think going on here. Where are we? Yes, we're in the live position. A small think by Andy Woodward as far as what to do after 94.
Yeah, so now it's a question. Are you going to take the pawn on e6? Because that pawn on f5 is now hanging, so you have to do something about it. Knight e7 is no longer an option in the next move. So what just happened? Andy just played knight c e5, trying to trade another knight like that, and Faustino just played knight f6. Yeah, the center now is looking better for black.
I think the idea, of course, if you take the pawn, then the knight is hanging. I wonder after takes if he was going to take with the pawn. That way the rook targets this pawn, and that was his oblique way of defending the f5 pawn. Perhaps we'll never know, but just to give you a little tactical reasoning for why he played knight on c to e5. By the way, these two players have the highest two Chess.com blitz ratings in the event, 2,900 for Andy and 3,000 plus for Fausti. So even though they're not at the top of the standings yet, don't sleep on them. Okay, let's try to get to the live position here. We had pawn takes. Pawn takes, queen b3, rook on a to e8, and we're back in the live position after h3.
Yep. And I think black is already very much ready because the rooks are doubled and all the position is very much intact. And it looks like, isn't it looking like a bit of symmetrical position now? Everything is double up on the e file.
Yeah, very similar. Just replace the white queen with a pawn, and you almost have it. So not much has happened in this game. A little bit of knight shuffling, but who knows? Anybody could hang a fork at any time. So white's rooks have doubled, but they're biting on rock. There's not really a chance you'll ever capture this knight. So we've reached, I don't know, what would you call this? Détente. You know, neither player can really do much here, but no draw offers are allowed. So somebody's got to do
No
something.
drawers. Yeah. All right. So at least now we see knight d2 trying to trade this knight up, and I don't see anything wrong with taking the knight on d2. But maybe what else can be done here? Knight d6. I like this idea as well. Maybe you want to put the knight on c4 and have a majority pawn on the queen side. Whoa, it's a lot of shuffling here.
Yeah, the knight on f6 moved to d6. If you understand the magic trick, that's basically what black just did. But now black's traded, and we have an exchange sack.
Ooh, what a move! Queen f7, knight g6. Whoa, Faustino missed the trick. And I think we can see it from the video as well. He just totally missed it. Yeah, this would be a nightmare if it happens. And whoa, rook e4. And now Andy Woodward is leading the position. Wow.
Yeah, so he
Okay.
does limit the damage to a pawn. A good job by him on that. But obviously, he's a supreme tactician. That is not like him to miss a tactic like that. Only 7 seconds left for each player, though.
Yes, h5, king h2, not letting anything going away after. Yeah, I like it. I mean, white is up a pawn. White doesn't need to do anything special, but just try to improve the position little by little. And this is what exactly Andy Woodward is doing.
White had a chance to play rook e7 and go for the strict queen endgame, but instead he's going for this endgame instead. Oh, now the black king's in a little bit of trouble. Who is going to make a mistake in the closing moments here? Only a couple seconds left for each player. The king is running around the board, and queen e7, e8 will win a rook, and that should do it.
That should do it, yes. And this is going to be the first win for Andy. And he won. Oh, 1.5 out of 4. Still, I mean, he's going to recover from all his losses, and he beat none other than Faustino Oro in the 4th round. So this is quite an important win for Andy.
The GM-elect beats the IM-elect. It is a tough tournament. I do want to mention that Fausti was eligible to play in the under-13 division, but due to scheduling constraints, he had to play in the under-16. So the fact that he's even here is really impressive. But Andy does get his first win. He already got a draw in the books. He is still very much in control of his own destiny with 1.5. But you know what we have to do? We have to take a look at our two leaders here. Abhimanyu Mishra went down in round 4. Heine kept up his winning ways after dropping the opening game. So he's on a 3-game heater. And both of these players have 3 out of 3 as we see knight e2, a closed Sicilian via a strange move order. And now we're back to an open Sicilian via a strange move order.
Yeah, and this rook g1 with the idea of g4. So h5 is already on the board. You know what, Mike, this is going to happen in a lot of games, especially for the kids, because they are going to be very updated in the latest trend and the latest popularity of the moves. So h3 still, white is being very stubborn here. Hey, you stop me from playing g4. I'm going to use more pieces to to
And then
play
H5.
g4, and after h3 and then h4, stopping the idea completely. Wow.
I'm just checking the player's guide. Are we giving like a bonus for the kid that plays G4 first? No, well, I'm being told that we're not. Although it feels that way in both the opening group and in this group. Of course, if white plays G4 now, black takes en passant, and H3 is going to be really, really weak. So black will probably not castle in this game. We will see. And we have somewhat of a traditional Sicilian, except with the very strange advantage of the H-pawns, which I'm sure is in vogue at the moment, and that's why the players know about it.
Yeah, so I have a mixed feeling about this position because, well, where are you going to put your king on e8? If you're going to do short castle, the pawn on h4 will be very weak. But if you want to start attacking the queen side, do you have all the pieces to attack? Because at some point, this king on e8 has to nest somewhere into a safer position. So I think Abhimanyu will try to hold the castle as long as he could, and then try to get all his pieces to attack the king on the queen side. But let's see if it's enough for him to do that.
It'd be fascinating to see. It almost looks like Abhimanyu sitting in a streamer's chair as well there. Very intense stare. He's one of the most intensive players to capture on camera. And he's bouncing a little bit, so I don't know if that's his normal posture or not. I haven't seen him on camera too much in blitz events. But absolutely as a focused as you'd expect, he's clamping down on the c4 square. Something will probably deposit itself there. Remember, though, we had an earlier open Sicilian game where this knight came to a4 with the other knight sitting on c4. So there's still some options.
There's still some options, and it means you have to involve the knight on f6 to go to d7 and somehow rearrange it that way so that you can have knight on a4 and c4. But okay, bishop e7 is now on the board. I think this is quite a good move as well. You never want to take the knight on f6 with the bishop anyway, so I think the bishop on g5 will be just leave there, and g4 is finally happening.
Yeah, I guess the point is that if you ever take, you might get the pawn going again. Although, as you said, Irene, when the bishop takes, the pawn will definitely take. And now black's built himself a little fortress. The bishop keeps an eye on the backward pawn, and that means that g5 will not happen. So it's a bit of a strange move. And I wonder if you're black, if you ignore it or if you take en passant. I think I would take, because you might as well give white a weakness. I don't know. You are opening up the g file.
Yeah, that's something to consider about, because if you're opening up the king side, it means you have to keep being responsible on the king side. Meanwhile, you want to focus yourself on the queen side. So, there's some consideration like that. So maybe Abhimanyu just want to keep attacking on the queen side. So that's why he just ignores whatever happening on the king side and not doing the en passant. And knight a4 is just the way to initiate the attack. But apparently this is not the best move that the computer suggested. So
it is
probably,
fascinating that when you play on both sides of the board. I think when he plays knight c4, he didn't want the knight to just sit there and languish and nothing to happen. This at least forces the action, and maybe that's what you want as black. You want stuff to happen on the queen side to open it up. But it's really hard to commentate when I don't even know which side of the board black is looking at. We almost have to look at Abhimanyu's eyes here and wonder if he's looking at the queen side.
And it's gonna be very hard to guess where he's looking at right now, right? Because, well, obviously he's gonna play on the queen side, that's for sure. I just want to get this rook on h8 to the game, because if black can involve this rook somehow to the attack, I mean, black is just gonna stand even better. But even in this position with the pawn, we see this theme as well. We have doubled a pawn in some of the games where black is using it to open up the queen side where the king is. So a3, I like this move a lot. You're trying to breaking up the pawns around the king and then creating some weaknesses. And you cannot push b3 there, because if b3, queen c3, and then queen b2 is going to be on the board.
Right, and bishop b5 is not a saving move because black will calmly take because his queen is defended. So after a long think, Irina's pointed out why white did not play b3 and instead the pawn capture, but that looks really weird. And by the way, one reason why black may not have captured en passant is because at the right moment, black may actually castle because it takes white so many moves to take and then push. And by the time that happens, all of black's rooks might get in the game. So it's a timing element, but black does keep up the option of castling kingside. If he had captured en passant, then the G file would have been open instantly, and the idea of castling kingside may not have been as possible. So let's see if we can get ourselves to live position here. After pawn takes, we had knight takes e4 with a double exclamation on the board.
Tactic, yes, this is a very well spotted tactic by Abhimanyu because not only that he got the very important pawn on the center, but now the position has transpired into it's a clear position that black is better with this pair of bishop. Oh, not only pair of bishop, this is just an extra piece for black.
Yeah, let's go back to that moment. I wasn't sure if it was forced or not, but in this position, bishop takes, I think, was just a straight blunder, just hanging the bishop, basically. And after
Just
queen
hanging the
over,
bishop.
yeah, the problems are not done because you've still got some b-file problems. You're still down a piece. And Abhimanyu just has to lean on Jaime Ray Martinez here. He's up 20 seconds. He's up a piece, and he has the attack. It's hard to find any advantages for the Spaniard here.
Yes, so Abhimanyu lost the previous run, but now he bounced back, and I think he's leading the field with 4 out of 5. Whoa, that was actually a very important match here because both of them are on 3 out of 4. So now Abhimanyu is leading alone, and the second place is going to be Jaime. And what's happening with Igor? Igor is
We've
still
got
playing.
one game left. Sorry to interrupt. I just want to, yeah, exactly. We've got Igor against Andy. So let's see if we can click there super quick to see the closing moments of this game. It's usually pretty crazy when we click over. And Irene, it looks like black is up in exchange with the active rooks.
Yes, this is almost game over, but we see from the previous game as well, we might call it a bit too soon, and somehow one of the players will recover and then actually win the position. So although this looks a bit hopeless, I don't see a way in to create some counterattack.
Yeah, once the file started opening up, then the rooks coordinate, and indeed, with all of the pawns following, pretty much every piece in the D file is going to be attacked. Andy Woodward wins 2 games in a row. He's now on to an even score. He's very much in contention for one of the top 2 standings. In the last game of the day, Shreyas Royal won against Faustino. We do hope for the best for the youngster.
Wow.
And that's where we stand with round 6 about to start. And where do you want to go? I'm gonna let you pick, Irene. Which game do you want to go over this time? What's the crowd saying?
I think I'm gonna go for Igor against Faustino, or I want to see Faustino's game. Yep.
Yeah, I do too. We've got plenty of time left to look at some of the leaders. Let's see Fausti in action. He has captivated us. And by the way, we're looking at his camera because if he wins, he might just do his famous dance. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, he beat Magnus Carlsen in a blitz game a few months ago. And he beat Nakamura just this past week, actually, in Bullet Brawl. And he does this. Well, I'm going to let him do it. Okay. And you can find it very easily on the web. But because he's on camera, I hope to see it. But we also just want to see some good chess. He is a ChessKid official ambassador. We're very happy to have him representing ChessKid. And he's really everything that we hope for. He's driven. He's funny. He is very energetic, but he's also very respectful. He comes from a great family. And I'm really happy that he's temporarily relocated to Spain. He's going to get a lot of great opportunities there.
Definitely. And, well, people are calling him the Messi in chess, right? For a good reason, because, well, you see, I just didn't know, like, how much achievements that he got so far, but it's just amazing. And I think we'll be commentating on his game very much soon in some world championship or something like that, Mike, because he's just going to be a stronger player in the years to come.
Right. And actually in this position, he's got a lot of bishops bearing down on the king. Even some very famous presidential politicians in Argentina were wishing him congratulations, every famous newspaper. And in case the Argentinian press is watching, there could be some crazy checkmate in this position. He might actually give the f6 pawn. I would not be surprised to see a move like rook c8. I know it's really sad that you lose your bishop pair, but that king looks really weak. I bet he's analyzing rook c8 in this position. Otherwise, you may save the bishop, but you don't want to play a passive move.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with you. Although I was also going to play rook c8 or even short castle. You know, just want to get another rook to the other side of the board. So anything that is leading to the attack to the king on c1. So I like this rook c8. If you take the b4 bishop, knight takes b4, king has to go to d2, and king. What about king e7 now or rook c2 first? I don't know. Anything can happen here. Like the king will somehow get checkmated in the middle of the board.
Wait a minute. Can I do this? Rook check. If king here, knight c2 mate, and if your king goes the other way, Irene, do you want to do the honors?
Yes, knight takes a2 and another checkmate.
That would have been pretty cool.
I know.
It
Okay,
didn't
knight
happen.
f6 is on the board, king e7 and e4. So Igor will be trying to get all his other pieces on the king side into the game because he needs it. Okay,
Yeah, he has
there's
to get
one
back a
trade
lot of
there.
pawns to not get mated.
Yep. And now the knight is about to move for sure, the knight on c6. So white has to do something about it.
Yeah, I think white was very clever there because Irene, white went after the light squared bishop, even if it cost him a pawn, because now the king can hide on b1 after a discovered check and not fall prey to any of those checkmates. So, but white is still very far behind in development. White's got to catch up. The 2 extra pawns don't mean anything till you get all your king's, your king side pieces out. I almost verbally mouse slipped, but I didn't.
Mouth slip, yeah. Well, okay, now we're seeing some sort of an opposite colored bishop, and white has 2 extra pawns for it, but of course the pawn on f5 will be captured at some point. So but in the end white will be having an extra pawn at least. So bishop f7. So what happens after bishop takes f2? Because I think this is what black is trying to do.
Maybe rook here, you can save your bishop with check, my king hides, and then if you ever take this one, I'm just assuming I can either take or do something bad to you on the f-file, but maybe it's equal, maybe the computer's saying it's equal, but white is on the better side of equal because white has the extra pawn and the king is not going to get mated anymore.
And that is actually what happened, Mike. So we can go on, but instead of king b1, white played king c2 and a6. So I think this is pretty much equal still, although of course with an extra pawn, a pawn is a pawn, right? This extra pawn can mean something later in the game. So if anything happens here, I think only white can win this position.
Exactly. I have far too many, well, I don't have too many, but the few chess students I have would say, but Mike, look at this position, it's equal. And I would say, okay, I get white, you get black. And they're like, no. And I'm like, see, just because the computer says it's equal doesn't mean it's not favorable to one side. Opposite colored bishops is probably the only reason the computer says it's equal. If white can find a way to either trade bishop for knight or knight for bishop, then because the opposite colored bishops, then the extra pawn will actually mean a little bit more. But black's job, of course, is to not let that happen. And black could actually play knight to d4 at his leisure to try to engineer an opposite colored bishop position.
Yeah, although I'm still trying to figure out the idea with knight b4 and probably rook c8, But okay, rook e1 just got there in time. And now, ooh, look at all these moves happening so fast on the board.
Yeah, part of that is just the game didn't auto-update, so I was engineering that, but 20 seconds left for Igor, over a minute for Fausti. I don't know if I'd rather have the extra pawn or the 40 seconds. Now, that's a legitimate debate. I might prefer the 40 seconds to the extra pawn, but we'll see how this turns out. I do not know much about Igor, but when you become Grandmaster at 14, I'm assuming you're pretty fast, and we're going to find out. Be careful, you're almost getting yourself mated. If this bishop goes back to f4, rook d1 is mate. So it did happen.
And it did happen. So rook d1, king c2, rook c1, king d3. I think it's just helping a lot, yeah? So probably, I like this idea. Rook d1, king c2, and rook a1. And where does the bishop go? Maybe bishop d5, okay. And actually, who is attacking who in this position? Even though white is up a pawn, but black has better initiatives.
Irene, I like your line because when you're ahead this much time, you just want to keep creating problems for your opponent. And problems can be as simple threats. You just keep putting your opponent in check, attacking a piece. Just give your opponent any decision to make, and it's going to be hard to to not lose on time. Even the 1 second increment, it's not a very large increment. Okay, so rook f2, the bishop's a little loose. What will Fausti do about that?
Maybe
Peter
put
says
the bishop back on
f6 is a
e5.
critical move. f6 is an impossible move to find. There's no way. I mean, with your bishop en prise like this after the knight moves, and you're playing f6, which weakens more light squares. Oh my goodness!
Oh, he did it.
The Messi of chess
Faustino
shoots and
found the best
scores.
move. Exactly.
Unbelievable that he found it.
Ooh.
Okay, his knight
Okay,
is still
so
out of
now,
it.
yeah, I think f6 was necessary anyway, because you cannot let white to play g5, because that's going to be very crucial. When g5 happens, then it's just one step closer to the promotion square. And now white can just wait, probably wait, and then try to push the king b6, and now try to incorporate the rook on d1 somehow.
And bishop is getting back to e5, and it got there. That forces more weaknesses. You almost are getting yourself mated here as white. Rook check, king has to move. It's almost mate, but it's not because of the bishop. And now pawns are falling on both sides of the board for white. Okay, that one gets captured. I'm not sure why I didn't take on g5 first. Now there's a protected passer.
Yeah.
Can't trade
That was
rooks because nothing
important
can stop the pawn.
Now the pawn on g6 will be deciding the game, because that's the only thing that white has in advantage here.
Yeah.
a5 and probably take stakes and...
Careful, because if you play b4, you might get your own king mated on the a file, and the king is running around to guard the g pawn. Okay, now
king
black
f7 and g8.
Yeah, but black can't control the b1 square. Promotion seemed the simplest method. I'm not sure why white is going all around the world here, but still winning, because this pawn can't get to b1. That's the big problem. Ooh, bishop b4.
Ooh, what is that? What is that?
I guess white was supposed to take on b1. That's why it was better to keep the rook on the first rank, by the way. But anyway, we've already crossed that bridge. And how on earth is black not losing this game? And now if he promotes to queen, now it's actually rook, knight, and pawn versus queen. Who saw this coming? Not me. Okay, technically,
no, I didn't see it coming. Oh,
okay, computer said white was winning for a moment, which is nuts. I'm not sure I'd rather have the rook, knight, and bishop and pawn in a blitz game. I might prefer to have the queen.
It's a draw by repetition. Probably both of them didn't realize that they've repeated the position there. But, well, there was one moment there where white could have just won easily. So instead of playing knight e8, you could have just taken the bishop on d6, followed by knight b5, followed by knight a3. So we can take a look at it very quickly. At the moment where white was up a rook anyway, just keep going. Yep, keep going, keep going. And after bishop d6 here, knight c7. And then after king, here you should have just taken the bishop, rook takes, knight b5, knight a3, and then you just win it like that.
Yeah.
And if king, if king b4, knight b1, and then you take f6, and then you promote that pawn.
Yeah, and if the king goes this way, you go here.
Actually, yes,
but if the king goes the other way...
maybe that's a draw still.
There's no square called alpha 2. Knight to alpha 2.
That would be nice to have it.
Wow.
So I missed that part of the variation then. Okay.
You know what? I think I have a video on ChessKid, knight versus pawn. I don't think I covered the uniqueness of the knight pawn. I don't even... Okay, now obviously I maybe have seen this before, but it wasn't in my mind, and just shows you how crazy chess is. Okay, well, we're going to go to another break, but before we do, let's take a look at the standings, because things are starting to clarify, but nothing has been decided. Abhimanyu, with that one loss, still leads with 5 out of 6. Remember, you only need to finish in the top 2. And Irene, what's it looking like for the battle for second place?
Yeah, so the second place we have Jaime with 3.5 points, and following just half a point behind is Andy Woodward with 3. And remember, Andy was having not a good start. He lost 2 out of 2, and then he somehow bounced back and keeps drawing and winning his game. And now he's on the clear third place with 3 out of 6. And then Shreyas Royal with Igor Samonenkov, they are sharing the 4th place with 2.5, and Faustino Oro surprisingly is on the last place temporarily.
They're so bunched up, though. If Fausti goes 4 out of 4 and gets 5.5 out of 10, he might still have a chance. Everything is to play for. It's going to be really exciting. Don't go anywhere. When we come back from the break, we're going to figure out who are our top 2 that will advance to tomorrow's knockout session. ChessKid Youth Championship conclusion coming up after this short break.
How often do you think about the Roman Empire? This July, you can think about it every day while you battle some of the ancient world's greatest and most fearsome leaders: Augustus, Hadrian, Cleopatra, Caligula, and of course, Julius Caesar. Play them all on Chess.com.
Welcome back, everybody, to the exciting conclusion of Group B of the ChessKid Youth Championship. I assure you it's Group B in name only. These players are every bit as talented as Group A. I'm here with International Master, Women's Grandmaster, in everybody's pride of Indonesia, Irene Sukandar. Irene, welcome back. You think we're going to have as exciting of a finish as we did in Group A?
Yeah, totally. I'm just going to mention that Abhimanyu is now leading alone, and he's been playing so well, but anything is still up for grabs. We still have so many games to go. Well, although I have to also mention that if Faustino loses again, then he is out of it. He has to start winning the game because he's currently on the last place with only 1.5 points out of 6.
Absolutely right. And I know it's not at the forefront of Abhimanyu's thinking, but if he goes 4-0 in this final segment, he'll get 9 out of 10, and he will pass Yuzha's record of 8 out of 10, which Yuzha set last weekend, and he equaled this weekend. But all the players really need to do is finish in the top 2. Other than that, they're just fighting for posterity and rating, not even extra money. But we're going to take a look at Fausti Oro versus Jaime Rey Martinez. Fausti represents Argentina, currently living in Spain for some more chess opportunities. So Spain versus Spain in a way. And here we go. Fausti is white. We have ourselves an accelerated dragon right off the bat.
Hyper accelerated dragon, because G6 was played without knight C6. And yeah, this is actually knight bishop D7 is a move. Bishop G7, you're sacrificing a pawn. This is also a very trendy line. So I don't know which one that Jaime will choose. He chose to sacrifice the pawn. Okay, and bishop d7, yeah, queen a6 and castle. So it's pretty much still in the theory book right now. So white is going to have an extra pawn, but it's going to be very hard for white to try to develop and try to use the extra pawn. So that's why black will have the compensation.
Yeah, not only does black have extra development, it's very easy to see how black can target G2, black can target B2, black can use this diagonal. So a lot of compensation, just like a lot of other openings where you sacrifice a pawn. This actually reminds me a little bit of the two knights defense, where black gives the C6 pawn for compensation. Some similarities, except this bishop maybe is even better on G7 than in the two knights defense. So this move is played so that the rook can come to B8 and target the B2 pawn whenever the bishop develops. Also, of course, pressure on the knight. We've already mentioned that when this knight moves, there could be some tricks on the C3 knight. I actually played a game once at the National High School Championship where I got my rook to C8 and I sacked the rook for the bishop, and then the bishop took back, and that's how I beat a player. But enough about me. We're going to see if this is worth the pawn. I think it is. I think I'd rather be black, especially in a blitz game here.
Exactly, yes, but well, a pawn is a pawn, and you and I actually are pawn grabbers, right? So I will try to defend this position as long as I can and then try to maintain the extra pawn, but of course it's hard. You see all black's pieces are already developed, and the bishop on c1 is a bit paralyzed right now, even though it wants to go out, but you also have to keep an eye on the b2 pawn, and now queen b7 is setting up an attack over the g2 pawn. So how are we going to defend this pawn? Because the G2 pawn is very important.
I mean, I guess F3, you have a cup of pawns.
After you have it.
And yes, I just made up that term because it's not a very good term, but you actually kind of have to play F3. And of course, that weakens some dark squares around your king. And this bishop would like to come rescue the dark squares. But as we already mentioned, B2 would fall. So a lot of compensation here. And I know I said in our opening broadcast I was a pawn grabber, but I'm becoming a changed man. You know, you can teach an old dog new tricks, and I'm trying to learn.
Well, I will have to keep your word for that, and let's see how it changed when you are. And queen h4 is on the board, and I think the queen h4 is going to be, I mean, this is the best move to play anyway, because you have to step away from any discovery potential over the bishop on c6. So knight h5. I'm just so itchy right now, Mike, to develop my bishop on c1. But again, the b2 pawn is always going to be my liability. So queen f2, oh, I'm so worried if there is going to be some pen over the a7 g1 diagonal. And yeah, Jaime is setting up for it.
Bishop d4 coming. I think he played queen here for this reason, Irene. If I had to channel my inner 10-year-old, he wanted to answer bishop to e5 with f4 to block those dark squares, but not hang the g2 pawn. It's just a thought, but you're right. Now it's this square that's a weakness. Now he wants to play c3 to get rid of that weakness, but his bishop would hang. So it's just like at every moment, white is just tenuously holding on to his position.
Yes, and I like this trade of bishop b5 because the bishop on d3 is holding on to everything. And okay, white is down, sorry, white is up a pawn, but I like black's position a lot. I like attacking, so that's why I don't mind sacrificing a pawn or two, or even a knight or a bishop in order to get more activity in the game. And here we see c3, and okay, how do I try to play with my bishop on g7? I just want to play bishop e5 and then bishop b8. Transpose this diagonal because I don't have anything else to do on bishop c3. I think this is a
Okay.
mistake, is it? I think it's
Well,
a
it seems
mistake.
like, yeah, it seems like you can let the queen come down here and then move the bishop somewhere awesome. I don't know if that's really the case, but okay, the knight did take. And now, do you move the bishop now or do you take the rook? Felt like you should take the rook, let the queen take, and move the bishop somewhere awesome. Okay, now, find the awesome. Somebody help me find the awesome. Irene, I need you. Bishop e3, that's the awesome? Okay, I thought it was something better.
I actually thought it would be something else too, but probably just grab the a7 pawn. You don't have to move your bishop at all, and then you just enter all this extra pawn anyway. And then with bishop versus knight in the endgame, you should be standing better. So this is, I think, what missed by Faustino. I mean, he's not playing so well so far in this tournament, so
Well,
he
in his
keeps missing
defense,
lots of tactics.
I got distracted by shiny things too. And in chess, nothing is shinier than a discovered attack. And I just got so laser focused and I forgot, oh, a7 is hanging. So, okay, he's still doing okay after bishop d5. He was defending quite well. He probably thought there was more of a tactic than there was as well. Okay, but both players have a playable position, 50 seconds left. Fausti needs to get a lot of wins in a row. One would presume you need a plus score to finish in the top two, and he needs to go 4-0 to get a plus score.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He has to win all the remaining games to be in the field, because now, having only 1/2 out of 6, it's way to go to the top two. So he cannot. I don't think he can actually afford another draw even, because in the next 3 rounds, even if he wins, I don't think he's gonna be on the top two. All right. So now we have some traits of the rooks, and what do you think about this position, Mike? I think black is okay.
Black seems okay, although there are still some problems in black position. Don't forget, a7 is still weak. Now, I don't like that Fausti spent so much time on rook e1. I actually think there's a better chance for white to win this position because the bishop is alive. This pawn is passed. There's still a little bit of weaknesses around the king. So if you maybe pick a color, I'd probably pick white. But certainly, as you can see with the eval bar, if black defends properly, black will be just fine. Fausti's going to go all out. No chance for a draw. We know that in the rules. Okay, queen to d3, that makes the most sense. And this pawn is yet to be stopped. I like the knight where it was on e6 to keep an eye on the c5 square. That pawn might continue its march. Okay, now, do you trade bishop for knight? I don't know if you want to.
That's a tough call. I probably, I mean, in the principle, queen and knight are they're better than queen and bishop. So, but that is without the pass one on c pawn on the c file. So I don't know whether I should trade my knight with the bishop or not, because queen can go to c6 now, stopping the pawn from promoting. I think I'd keep my knight and then try to push all the pawns on the king side, like h5 and so on. And okay, knight will go back to e6 now.
Well, if knight e6, then maybe the pawn would get to f5. Okay, now does that? He's tempting black to take, allow the pawn to come forward. There's no perpetual check, so black says no thank you for the f3 pawn, keeps the blockade intact. 3 seconds left for each player. Blockade is not going anywhere. White tries to create some complications.
Yeah, I would be trembling when my time is down to like 2 seconds. So a really mouse skill is required in this game. Knight e3 is a mistake, because now where does the knight go? And then the pawn will be just promoting.
Yeah.
Oh, Faustino.
Black has abandoned the blockade, going for a million checks and almost mating, by the way. The king is walking out. I can't describe how, but he's doing it. And eventually the checks are going to run out, which they do, and 2 queens on the board. And in fact, Fausti finds a way to win. Black should have contented himself with the blockade, but now things are interesting. Jaime falls back a little bit. Faustino jumps up a little bit, and the little guy has shown some moxie here. Very exciting.
Very exciting. Yes, wow. But that loss for Jaime means it's just putting the gap between Abimanyu and Jaime even bigger, because now Abimanyu is cruising with 6 out of 10, while on the second place it's Jaime with 3.5. So wow, it's looking like for the next 3 rounds, we can tell that Abimanyu is going to be one of the top two.
Almost certainly, yes. And in fact,
Almost
it is
certainly.
it is technically possible that you could finish with 5 out of 10 and qualify for a playoff. I think it's really statistically unlikely. So Fausti's still in it. We're going to stay with Fausti, and we're going to look at the tournament leader at the same time. It only makes sense. I believe mathematically, if Abimanyu gets at least a draw here, he's in. He might already be in by losing the final 3 games. Of course, he would never dream that upon himself. And we have ourselves an Italian game, Abimanyu white, Fausti black, and this is all very much theory. It looks like I'm watching Fabiano play a candidates game.
Yes, I was actually surprised that we haven't seen an Italian game in this tournament so far. Only this one catches our attention. So it's good. It's good to see at least one of the main opening is happening on the game now. So, but this is a bit unusual way of playing with a5 and a4. So I think that's probably because Abimanyu didn't bother to play a4 himself and then allowing a4 to happen for black. So bishop b5, yeah, things are still within the theory book. Yeah, you want to play knight g3, you want to undermine the f5 square, you want to prepare for d4 push at some point. So probably you would need to play h3 at some point because you might worried about bishop g4, pinning the knight on f3 and so on. So bishop b5, do I have a way to force this bishop, or maybe this is just a sacrifice for the pawn on a4? If you were white, if you were black here, what are you going to do, Mike? Will you sacrifice the pawn on a4?
I'd probably push it. I totally realize that white will probably push and the pawn is still going to be a liability later, but I wouldn't just give it for free. Black took my advice, may not be a good thing, but it did happen. Yeah, it's almost like it's an Italian that turned into a Re Lopez and Irene. I don't think we've seen a Re Lopez either. So these players they're taking all, and they're not playing a Berlin. So thank goodness that actually isn't a player contract. No Berlin. Just kidding, of course.
No Berlin.
Yeah.
And we have to include to the clause if there is no Berlin, no London too. So we can exclude those 2 openings in a one tournament. So let's yeah, actually that's a very interesting idea for the next tournament, Mike.
Yeah, I think we had one London, but we'll be finding that player. Okay, so bishop e6. I'm worried because, Irene, you've seen this happen a lot of times in your career. The players could play a regular chess game, and then out of nowhere, a3 could fall, and then white could just win. So it's actually black that has to do something a little bit special here, because black can't just accept that he'll lose this pawn 17 moves down the road. I know you may think how's that going to happen? But the thing is, as the pieces start doing other things in the position, then this rook will want to not just be tied down to this pawn. The queen has access to b3, keeping the rook glued, and it's almost like black is playing without a rook after queen b3.
Yeah, I like your point there. Although I need to also note here that the idea of knight f4 can happen at any point, and maybe that's the thing for black to do, because black has to come up with some sort of plan. I don't know. You want to play d5, of course, but playing d5 now will leave e5 hanging because you don't have enough guardians over the e5 square. But if you really want to play, I just mentioned about maybe now d5 is the move, because you just want to break open the center. But if d5, then knight b3, knight c5. Okay. I'm taking my words. That's not going to be a very good plan.
And I think black is saving this move, because if you play it right away, after g3, knight here, king g2, you have to immediately trade off your knight. So I think he's waiting for the perfect moment. The threat is stronger than the execution and all that jazz. And that's actually white who breaks in the center. Crazy stuff after d4.
Wow, yes. And now the rooks are doubled. And even if the queen on c2 is going to go to b3, but it leaves its pawn on c2 guarding the pawn on e4. So that's not going to happen for now. The queen will have to still be on c2. And in the... I just totally called it wrongly. Okay, so queen b3, queen a7, but I thought e4 was kind of hanging.
It felt that way to me too. After pawn takes, maybe knight takes winning a tempo and the rook can't take. Exactly. Maybe that was the idea.
Yeah, that is totally the idea. G3, stopping the knight to go to f4. And yeah, this is also another typical move in order to also strengthen your back rank. So in order for your king to escape later, you still have the g2 square for the king. And no, this is quite complex. Like I don't see any clear plan for both sides. I think it's just a waiting game for both.
Yeah, if I was white, I'd almost be regretting having the pawn on d4 because knight b1 might become an idea. But now your knights are needed for the center. So the pawn remains a sideshow. I'm trying to try not to get too distracted by it. We have lots of pawn trades in the center, but whoever trades helps the other person's knight. So we have a great case of tension. In the ChessKid world, we call it the staring contest. Nobody blink. The first person to capture improves the opponent's knight.
Yeah, wow. I think d5 is a really good dynamic move that Faustino just did there. And de5, this might leave the e4 pawn later pinned, because what happened after knight takes e5? You cannot take d5, can you?
Because of takes?
I think I can also play knight d3. I want to play queen takes f2. That's I don't know how good is that, or maybe it's not a good idea. Okay, I sacrificed too much. I sacrificed too many pieces.
It's crazy, but maybe he can just take. I don't know.
Exactly. Okay, so do we have move? Okay, takes. Okay, this is the current position right now.
Yeah, so
and
now the knight is overworked.
There.
So weird, but the knight is overworked. Very nice find by Abhimanyu. By the way, he squandered his 50-second time advantage, but he still got a 20-second time advantage, and that allowed him to find the tactic. And he's up a pawn. It wasn't the pawn we were guessing, but it might become 2 pawns when the a pawn falls.
Yes, now the knight on d2 has to play somewhere, maybe knight f3 and then king g2. Yeah, you just play such a slow move, but you're trying to improve your position little by little.
Computer's saying it's critical because if you don't play it, this rook will come either to d5 or to e2. The knight will come to e4, and your knight will be in dire straits. So the knight had to come to f3. It was found by the world's youngest grandmaster, and in this position, he just needs to consolidate the king side. He can win with the advantage on the queen side whenever he wants. But of course, it's Fausti's job to keep creating problems for his opponent.
Yes, and Abhimanyu decides not to take that pawn on a3 earlier because he needs to consolidate his position around the king first, because it looks a bit scary now. The queen, the knight, and the rook, they are on the king side and they are trying to attack the king so Faustino is trying to get some compensation with the 2 pawn that he lost. So wait.
Computer says
the
okay.
bar
I don't know
is
if g5 is coming, but it's crazy. 1 second left, and you got to keep throwing stuff at your opponent. Just keep chucking things at your opponent and seeing what happens here. And look at how defensive the white pieces
Queen
have gotten.
f5. Okay, that's it. When the queens are exchanged, it's almost game over. And now the rook will come. Okay, and knight f4 is unavoidable, and the rook on h5 is kind of paralyzed. So that is a win for Abhimanyu. Oh, is it still going on?
A small file. No, it is over. We have a resignation from
It's
Fausti.
over,
Yeah. And a small style there from Mishra. He probably, if he's looking at the standings, knows that he's punched his ticket. That was the last game in that round. Fausti may be mathematically out of it, but he's still going to fight to the end. That's the kind of player he is. I want to take a quick look at the standings before I decide which game to look at in round 9. Abhimanyu all alone with 7. Andy's got 4. Igor's got 4. Jaime drops another game. He's on the outside looking in for the first time all tournament. He's got 3.5. Shreyas is on 3 and not out of it. Fausti is on 2.5. I think Shreyas versus Jaime. Now, these are not the 2 second place kids, but because both of these kids really need a win, they probably both need to go 2-0 to have a chance. We haven't seen a whole lot of Shreyas. I think I'm going to pick this one.
Yes, let's do it. Yeah, these 2 players know that they cannot waste any more time even to draw a game. They need to start winning the game in order to be still in the contention. So yeah, we're going to see Shreyas versus Jaime, and we haven't seen much of Shreyas here. So hopefully both of them will play such a good fighting game here, and then still in the contention to be on the top 2. Okay, knight f3, c5.
Yeah.
All right, so we see this position again, and it might transpose to this English pseudo-ratty type of position. Probably after e5, then maybe there's some e4 here, I don't know.
Yeah, wow, he's going to actually play his knight. Now, after e4, would he have played his knight back to g1, or would he play the Magnus Carlsen Norwegian thing and play knight h4, knight g2? Actually, we'll never know, because Black did not play e4 when he could have. Maybe we can ask Shreyas in our own time at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And okay, we see. What are we seeing here? Like it's a King's Indian Dutch type position. Yeah, I mean, anything is still possible for both sides. There's so many ideas actually to come up with. E3 is on the board. Are you going to castle immediately here? No. E4 is played, and now castle, and D3 is going to come up. Yeah, now it is happening.
Yeah, the only question for me was D3 or D4, but white needs to gain some space before this knight were to hop in and do something bad. So D3 forces the action a little bit more. Shreyas, of course, has 2 GM norms. He just got the 2,500 rating, and he's got, I don't know, like 3 more years to get 1 more norm to break David Howell's record as the youngest GM in history. I don't think David is sitting by the computer waiting for it to happen. It's a foregone conclusion. But back to our game here. He needs to win, and he needs to win the final round to get back to an even score and have any chance of finishing in the top 2. Jaime, basically the same position, almost needs to win both games as well.
Yeah, what I don't like in first position here is everything looks a bit too passive, while black has lots of space advantage. Although, okay, the computer says this is still pretty much equal, or white is even a little bit better. But probably, yeah, I would take black here. So knight takes d5. If knight takes d5, probably bishop takes b2. So that's not going to happen. Queen c2 is on the board. And how are we going to do here as black? Take on d3 maybe, or take on c3. Oh, maybe take on c3
with the knight.
With the knight, yeah, I'd like to keep my bishop, but probably I will have to take it again, like recapture it again, like bishop c3, queen c3, and yeah, that position is roughly should be equal.
I wanted to not make it so easy to guard the b pawn with the rook and keep everything on the board and put my queen on b6. Like, I don't know, I wanted to get my queen here and target b3. But the players have moved on past our analysis, because what happened was pawn takes, knight takes, b6, just solidifying the c pawn, and we arrived at the live position after rook on a to d1.
Wow, now white is consolidating, and white is looking better here, because thanks to the bishop on g2, it looks like one of the best pieces that white has on this position. And you cannot really move your queen from d8 because the knight on d5 is hanging, so you have to trade this, but it means your king on g8 will be quite exposed later on. So, and how are you going to deal with these? Okay, queen c7 is there, but you can take on g7 and you can play b4. Oh, that's gonna be knight f4 is also going to be quite a good move here. Knight f4 takes g7, give a check, queen c3, something like that. Ugh, I feel a bit loose here for black.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just take a look here. If you take and the king takes and you give a little peekaboo and the king goes back, you could just play like knight here. And knight f6 is so annoying. But if you take, your king's out of squares and you have to give an exchange to not get mated.
Exactly. Yeah, white has so many good choices here. Like, I don't think bishop g7 is the only move for white here. I think white has other moves as well. So,
I mean, queen c3 check is the queen c3, knight d5 is the easy solution, but Shreyas goes for b4. Okay, maybe the idea is still playable, but it just seems strange. Aren't we brought up to play checks and captures? I thought we were.
Maybe he wants to grab a pawn because c5 is now hanging, so you can totally grab it. You still are better in the king side anyway. You can always accelerate this attack at any point. So probably, yeah, Shreyas just wants to make sure that he has some material advantage out of this position, because he definitely has the positional advantage.
I would just be afraid that after takes, like the knight could move or something, but computer says what he's doing is just fine. So actually what happened is the knight did go to e5 and the queen pinned it, and white wins a pawn all the same. And we're kind of at a similar type of idea. You need to get rid of the knight, but you can't get rid of the knight because the bishop is nearly as strong. And oh man, it's almost complete paralysis for black. The bishop's coming to e6, the rook's coming up, maybe the rook's coming here, all kinds of ideas for white.
Yeah. You just have to somehow put the rook on the 7th rank, and I think you are good for it. The bishop, though, I don't think e6 is the best square. Probably you can just leave it on a2 because the bishop works best from the distance. But okay, rook b1. Yeah, Shreyas just wants to get another rook involved in the game. Rook fc1 is going to come next, and you also want to grab a pawn on b6. So bishop a2. I like this move now.
Yeah, let's see if he just drops the bishop back to the strong diagonal. He guards the bishop nonetheless. He's got a minute to 15 seconds time advantage. By the way, no matter what happens, you're going to see Shreyas tomorrow either in the knockout portion or live in Trafalgar Square at Chess Fest. So for those of you who live in London anyway, he's going to do one or the other and maybe both. The knight is toast, and Shreyas is doing what he needs to do. This might knock Jaime out of the running for the top 2, which is a bit of a shame because he was firmly in second place until this final segment where it looks like he might lose his third in a row.
Yes, he was on the second place with 3.5, and it seems from there he's not moving up at all, and he keeps losing his games, unfortunately. And now,
I'm going to very quickly move to Igor versus Abhimanyu because this matters a lot for the second place battle. Abhimanyu, we are almost positive is already in. I think mathematically we can confirm that, but Igor is in a fight for second place, which is going to be a huge fight. It'll almost certainly come down to the last round. We've got 3 players on 4 points now that Shreyas has won, although Igor is still playing his game. Andy, I'm not sure if his game is over. Andy's still playing, but losing against Fausti. But we're going to stay here. Yep. Igor, small advantage over Abhimanyu.
Right, and now Abhimanyu has been offering a trade on the d5 square, just trying to get this rook to be captured by the bishop, and Igor has been reluctant in capturing it. And okay, the position looks better for white just because white has more active pieces, but I think everything is still, possible. Like Abhimanyu will keep attacking the back rank, and especially the king. The white king is kind of exposed on the second rank, and I don't think Igor will take the rook on d5 at any point anyway, because that position sacrifice might just leave the position better for black. So I don't know what to expect here, actually.
Do you think if the queen's trade, he would take on d5 then? I think he might then. But again, the rook can never move because if you lose c6, then the pawns just run free. So I don't even know.
Yep, and okay, there might be some repetition now because so Igor would try to play this one because he could have just repeated bishop c1, bishop b2, queen a2, and now we don't see any improvement in position. There you go, queen trade, and then it is time for the rook to go, but then bishop c6. All right, how are we feeling about this position? The pawn on c5 looks very dangerous, but can white promote it? Okay, it's going to be a draw.
Yeah, I think white should have played c6 to keep the pawn. That would have given white the best winning chances. And tournamentally speaking, if I can invent a new English word, tournamentally, he probably should have kept that c6 pawn on the board. Now, he's got to try to win this. I will say, though, a draw is not the worst thing in the world. Because, well, actually, I have to report, just in the same moment, Andy won his game to go to 5 out of 9 and take clear second. Igor slips back into third with the draw.
Wow, and who is Andy's going to play next one? He's going to play against Igor Samenenkov. And so probably since Abhimanyu is going to be one of the top 20, he's going to be the clear winner for sure. No one is able to catch him on the last round with 7.5, and then the second place is Andy Woodward with 5. It's 2.5 points gap. So which one are we going to see next, Mike?
Well, we have to show Andy versus Igor. Let's set the stage, as you very well pointed out, Irene. Abhimanyu is in. He will play tomorrow in the knockout. If Andy wins this game or draws this game, he is guaranteed clear second place, even at only a +1 score. That's how dominating Abhimanyu has been. Igor needs to win his game, and because these two are playing, Shreyas is out. So I can say one thing, there will not be a playoff, and there will not be a chance for Shreyas to make a comeback. So it all comes down to this. Andy has draw odds, essentially, even though he's playing white. Okay, a little bit of opposite of an Armageddon game. Andy must draw or win. Igor must win. And that's it. It's a very simple mathematical formula for this last game.
Yes, Andy just needs to make a draw to be able to be on the top two. So we'll see. And he's playing white, so mathematically he doesn't have to do anything special. I mean, he can just keep trading the pieces because a draw is enough for Andy to be on the second place. And in the meantime, Igor, as black pieces, he has to force things. He cannot make a draw. He has to win the game. So he has to come up with a aggressive opening. But we see in the video, he's not there yet. Igor
Yeah, a
is
bit of a
not on
developing
the.
situation. Andy took 9
Yeah.
seconds to play d4. I'm not sure if that was sportsmanship, if he was waiting, but Igor has left the room. And there's certain rules in place. Sometimes when nature calls, you got to do your thing. So we're going to wait for Igor, and we will just look at Fausti while we're waiting for Igor to come back. So we've got Fausti
He's
versus
coming back.
Shreyas. He is coming back, and
He's coming back. I can
once he
already see
makes
it on
his
the
first
door.
move, we'll switch back. But I'm looking at his clock tick away. Okay, he's made his. Actually, we've reset the game. There may have been a request for him to use the restroom or something similar. I don't know. But I like it. We'll get a fair fight. And the game will actually end last because it started last. So I'm going to go back to that game to confuse my producer. Back to Andy versus Igor because it matters so much. And we have a Catalan for all the marbles. White needs to win or draw. Black needs to win. Here we go, Irene.
Yeah, so this is a classical Catalan variation where you just move up this b6 and c6 and trying to incorporate rook c8, c5 as well in the game. So, there's actually this idea with knight h5, knight f6, but since Igor needs to win this position, I don't think he's gonna go to that variation because it is also a very common thing in Catalan in this position to just repeat the moves like that. So since he needs to win, so he has to come up with some other variation. Maybe it's rook c8, but yeah, I like this b5 idea. But maybe this is a bit too premature because now c6 is kind of hanging, so rook c8 has to be played before b5 anyway. All right, now what to do here because black wants to take on c4 twice, and also black wants to take on e5 and knight d7. It can happen something like that too. I'm not going to be surprised if Andy plays c5 here just to stop everything.
Yeah, one wonders how knowledgeable he is about his tournament situation. C5 might be the best move anyway, but from a tournament perspective, it might really make a lot of sense to not get things too crazy and just lock down the queen side. Of course, I assume black is aware of the tournament situation, and black realizes just because the queen side locked up doesn't mean the game is over. There's still chances on the king side. But big decision here, a lot of time being taken by Andy. He's already down about a minute trying to figure out what to do. You can see his eyes are glued to the screen. He's got the world map in the background, but he's not figuring out what's the capital of Burkina Faso. That's a Ouagadougou, Andy. Back to chess. What are we doing here? And he plays e4 after a long think. Wow.
I think he has a really good approach, although mathematically e4 is not the best move on the position, but his approach, even though he knows that he just needs a draw, but it doesn't affect how he played. He just keeps playing according to what he wants. He wants to open up the position. Okay, e4 in the Catalan is of course the most typical move, and if you can play this e4 without getting punished from black, then it's always a good idea. So I like how Andy approached this last game, that the fact that he just needs a draw doesn't affect how he plays.
One of the most common axioms in chess is when you need a draw, play for a win, because you can often make your opponent have to play moves to consolidate, or sometimes you can rip open the opponent's king, go for perpetual. So it looks like that is the motto that Andy lives by here. Of course, they can't agree to a draw anyway, so he is trying to rip open the center, maybe target the c-pawn, and give his opponent problems, not just playing for a draw. This is, of course, assuming he's aware of the tournament situation, but he may not be. He may think he needs to win anyway. After all, it's pretty hard to believe that +1 would get you clear second place. That is mathematically weird, but that is the situation we're facing. A draw gets him +1 and second place.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so in this position, if I were white, I think I would have taken ed followed by c5. I like to have a pass pawn, but bishop d2 is actually the best move in this position, and Andy just played it. It's a good sign that he keeps finding all these good moves. And let me remind you again, Andy started out with 0 out of 2. So he's been cruising from the third round and on, and now he's on the second place.
Here I would just play a3 almost instantly. Just get the bishop pair, win a tempo, and just keep applying the pressure to opponent. He plays rook b1. Maybe he wants to play the exchange sack, rook takes followed by knight takes. You can probably play that without much thought, getting full compensation, I would assume. He could also be thinking about a straight knight takes. It almost works. I don't know. Maybe it's an idea.
Yeah, it's definitely an idea. Like, okay, this position is totally nice for white, yeah, with the pair of bishop and also with better center. It's everything that white is hoping for. And now where does the queen go? Even if the queen goes to c7 or d8, my idea with ed followed by c5 will always be there. And then you can just totally enjoy your control over the center. But Andy has been playing so aggressive chess, and this is what I like about his style.
Yeah, 2 bishops versus 2 knights, and black would love to get rid of his weak pawn, but he's just going to further open the position when he does so, and this bishop's going to say, remember me? So I don't think c5 is really possible because the bishop would end up taking the knight. So very tough position to play 2 knights versus 2 bishops in. The pawns are mobile. You don't really want to push your c or your e pawns for any reason, and yeah, great position to be in when you only need to draw. So rook over, and now this move is not going to happen yet. You never want to let the knight get to d5. That's like the one thing white will never do in this position. But this pawn is further getting targeted. Queen to d7.
Yeah, exactly. And bishop a1, just stepping away. And then again, the bishop is always works best from the distance. And probably you want to try to play d5 at any point. I know it looks crazy at the moment, but just stepping away like this, the queen might also get into a battery. But since the pawn on a7 and c6, they're kind of like a bit weak and disconnected. So maybe this is a really good point for white to pressure on black's position. So queen a6, I like it so much, and probably the next one, Andy would try to double up the rook on the c file.
Yeah, really good analysis. There's so many ways to play. I actually thought black was so helpless that white was going to play h4, h5, h6.
Right.
But here we are in this position, a totally different way to play. More space, more bishops. Not more time on the clock, though. 20 seconds. Anything can happen. White needs any sort of score to move on. Black needs a win. Rook to b7, trading some pieces. But black will be wise not to take because the queen will be kind of a monster on the 7th rank. You better play rook takes rook. It's like the only move, I think. Okay, now the queen's going to run away.
Yep, and now when the queen runs away, queen takes a5. So white, yeah, black is getting some compensation here, although white is still standing better because the pawn, yeah, the a5 pawn doesn't really mean anything. What Andy needs to do now is to play faster because he has only 6 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah, he wanted to play d5 there because the c6 pawn was pinned, I think. But now that the rook steps out of the way of the c file, you don't want to play d5, I don't think, because black will just trade everything on that d5 square. I don't even know if d5 was right, but it seems right. And now here we are with 5 seconds left. The a pawn is weak. Black needs a win. The a pawn advances. The 2 knights are holding their own mysteriously against the bishops. He got rid of one of them, but it cost him his extra pawn. And now if you can get c5 in, you may have achieved equality, but black needs more than equality.
More than equality, yeah? And queen, d5, and now allowing this pawn to be a pass pawn. Yeah, white is standing better, but what about taking e6? I'm a bit worried of the g7 square, but maybe it's not.
Look at Fade. I'm worried about everything. 3 seconds. You got to go for broke. He trades queens.
Takes.
Oh, no, I don't think that's the right idea. But okay, still in the balance. 2 seconds left. Knight e5 coming. Bishop must retreat. The c-pawn's going to become a monster at some point. But white is up a pawn.
Yeah, now the position has been simplified a lot. I think both players can play with just a millisecond on the clock. So Andy is currently better. And okay, the king has to stop the pawn from promoting, but also Andy has this counter idea on the other side of the board. So maybe at some point the bishop will be sacrificed for the pawn, and and then the king will just collect other pawns on the other side. Okay,
yeah,
bishop
that's a good
c2,
point, Irene.
nice.
You only need a draw, so you could just get rid of all the pawns, but actually white's winning.
Yeah, white is winning now, and yeah, that's almost game over now, and. Well, congratulations for Andy Woodward qualifying for the knockout tomorrow, being the clear second in the Group B.
got the result he needed. He actually was formerly a member of a group lesson we used to do, and he really impressed Ivan Sokolov, saying that he's just so quick in his thinking. And he's also a resilient player. As you pointed out, Irene, started out at the bottom of the standings with 0 out of 2, came back to win 6 points from the next 8 games, and qualifies, finishing in second place. He will play the number 1 player tomorrow in the knockout, which is Yej Erdogush. So that's going to be pretty cool. But let's first celebrate the players that have won today. Abhimanyu Mishra cruising with 8 out of 10, matching Yej's score from both today and last week in the under 13. And Andy Woodward with a +2 score finishes with 6 out of 10 and qualifies in second. Irene, you want to tell us about the remaining standings, please?
Yes, well, the top 2 are the 2 Americans, and on the clear third is Igor Samonenkov, and on the 4th place, Jaime Reyes Martinez and Shreyas Royal. They're sharing with 4 points, and on the last place we have Faustino Oro with 3.5. So tomorrow is the knockout system. The first winner will play against the second, so it means we have Abhimanyu versus Zemlyansky, and we will have Andy Woodward versus Yus Erdogush.
Well said. It's exactly right. But before we get to tomorrow's action, we are going to come back with an interview with the winner, the youngest Grandmaster of all time, Grandmaster Abhimanyu Mishra. And I want to tell you, before we go to that break and have the interview, you have a chance right now to stock up on chess merch at the Chess.com shop. I've been there. It's cool. I get a small employee discount, but I would buy it full price. We've got you covered with fresh new t-shirt designs, mittens, plushies, and accessories. Head over to go.chess.com/merch or use the command !merch in the chat to shop now before it's all sold out, and things do sell out, I will tell you. Coming back after this short break, both me and Irene will interview Grandmaster Abhimanyu Mishra. He's going to tell us about all his action today and how he got it done. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Looking for new ways to enjoy chess? Check out our schedule of Chess.com community events today. Mondays, play Rapid Opening Roulette and expand your opening repertoire with a new opening each month. Tuesdays, compete against other Untitled players in Untitled Tuesday. Battle your way to the top in Arena Kings on Wednesdays. And finish the week off each Saturday with the blistering Community Bullet Brawl. All happening in the Community Club on Chess.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to the ChessKid Youth Championships, and we are here with the winner of Group B, who will be playing tomorrow, Grandmaster Abhimanyu Mishra of USA, the youngest Grandmaster in history. Abhi, welcome.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I mean, I've seen it was a very fun event to play, and I'm happy that I won this with a 2-point margin.
Yeah, you equaled Yez's score from this morning and also from last week. So a little bit of smooth sailing. My first question, even though you didn't have the highest Chess.com blitz rating, you had the highest FIDE classical rating. Did you think of yourself as a favorite going into today?
Yeah, I felt like I was a favorite. I actually, before this event, I just played one title Tuesday just to prepare. I almost tied for third. Unfortunately, I had a winning position final round against Niall Serene, a winning queen ending, and I somehow managed to blow it completely apart and lost the game. But yeah, I mean, that gave me a lot of confidence that I should be able to stand my ground here.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I like how you play in this event. Like you showed lots of good tactical skill as well as the positional understanding. It's a very well-rounded play that you showed us. So, did you expect that Andy Woodward will come second? Because well, we see like lots of good names here. We have Faustino Oro, the one that everyone has been talking about these days. We also have Shreyas Royal and another Grandmaster, Igor Samonenkov. It must be quite a surprise for Andy to come to the second place. What do you expect from your fellow American?
Yeah, actually, he's one of my good friends, and yeah, I was rooting for him. Like, I was hoping that okay, first I'll qualify, and then if the second person to qualify would be him. It's nice that it turned out this way.
Good.
Did you
And
have him as your sparring partner, for example?
No, I don't. I don't really play too many games against him, but I mean, he's one of my normal friends, so.
That's great. And as we've seen, even Fabiano and Hikaru have become friends. So it's good to see the Americans all getting along. We'll see if it's an all-American final. Now, we were reminiscing before we went live on the air, Abhimanyu, and you reminded me you played in a ChessKid National Online Championship in 2016. So you've gone 8 years between ChessKid events. But I want to talk about your interviewing skills. I know you weren't expecting that question, but you've become a really good interview subject. So
Thank you.
do you practice that at all? I know when you got the record, you probably did a lot of interviews, but did you work on that at all, or are you just getting better naturally?
I think it's mainly okay. It's like the same thing with playing chess. The more games you play, the better you get at it. It's like so. I think it's all from interviews that okay, I've done so many, so now it's a bit more natural, and now that kind of like fear is gone. Like of course, like at first, like when you're on air in front of 2,000 people, of course it's a bit scary that okay, you might not get your things across, but I mean overall, I think it's all from practice.
I was just going to go quiet for a while to see how long you kept talking in a
No, I can hear him talking actually, because it's so refreshing as well to have a very young grandmaster to be very well surrounded, and not only on chess but also on social skill as well, because we need a role model like you, Abhimanyu, and thanks for being you, because this is a really a refreshing thing for the chess world. So I have a few questions, and they are coming from our chat. So, and also I'm so curious about it. You've been improving a lot in this past few years, and I've seen some of your interviews as well on how you are trying to cope with any of your losses, or maybe any drawback in some tournaments, right? Can you share me your secret, your favorite way to improve your chess? And this was also one of the questions from the chat.
Sure, it's always a big question that after a setback, how a player responds to it. And this you can see this even at the highest level, like even in the last candidates, for example. Kokesh was having a great event, and then all of a sudden he lost to Furusha. Now he remained strong and he managed to win the candidates. That was absolutely commendable. Now I try to use a similar kind of thing in my trading during my practice, in the sense that okay, if one game goes wrong, that's just one game that we have the rest of the tournament to look forward to, and that this game, whatever just happened, should not affect the later rounds. I just try to keep it aside, and okay, I may check it that day, but I'll just try to forget about it and move on.
Yeah, that's good thinking, and thank you, Abhi, for the answer. That question was from I Like Cats TFT, love the name. Another question from our Twitch chat, NG Cool wants to know, how many hours do you play chess per day?
Yeah, nowadays it's like 8 to 10 plus. Like it's usually between 8 to 10 hours, basically the whole day.
Wow.
Wow.
Amazing stamina. Don't get a day job. Trust me. Don't get a day job.
I guess that's totally paying off, seeing how much you've have improved. And what about your future plans? And what is your nearest event?
My next event is BL triathlon. It starts in another, like, let's say like 5-6 days, I believe. And okay, I'll be playing against Prague, Vincent Keimer, Lequang Liam, and similar strong players. And yeah, I hope to play my best chess, and we'll see what happens.
That's going to be
Well,
a
I
great
will see you
test.
there. Mike, it's a good thing that he's gonna play in the Grandmaster section. I'm gonna play in Master, so I'm not gonna be able to play against Abhimanyu at all because this is gonna be scary. I don't want to see the pairing, which is saying, okay, Mishra versus Sukandar. No, I don't want to see that.
Yeah, she was not scouting you today. She was only praising you. We'll get you out of here with one more question. I understood that you woke up a little bit early and tuned into the early match where you saw both Ivan Zemlansky and Jej Erdagush qualify. What do you think of both of their games now that you got to see them play 10 games each?
Yeah, I didn't watch the entire thing. I just happened to see the final results and so on. They both are very strong players. I actually have experience with both of them over the board. Yesh, I've played in what was it? There was this Open in Germany. I think it was Grenke Open. Yeah, I played in Grenke Open. We had a very solid draw, and that was he was playing very well in that game. And the same with I played against Ivan in Sharjah Masters penultimate round, and we made a draw there too. I mean, they both are very strong players, and it will be very fun to play against them.
It's going to be great. Maybe it's a preview to the World Championship in 2034, as we've been joking about all day. But maybe it'll just be a
Not
great
joking,
match on its
we're
own.
predicting.
Yes.
It's not a
Somebody-
joke, we're predicting, Mike.
In 10 years, when the World Championship's in St. Louis, somebody's going to dig up this broadcast and be like, Yuj versus Abhimanyu. See, they joked, but it's true. Anyway, we're just going to enjoy your career for what it is. It's on the rise, which is awesome. I have more Twitter followers than you. That's all I can say, but you're going to pass me soon on that. That's obviously just a joke, but I want to thank you on the excellent play today. Grandmaster Abhimanyu Mishra, the youngest Grandmaster in history, will play the ChessKid Youth Championship knockout phase tomorrow. And I also want to thank my wonderful co-host, International Master Irene Sikander, who will also come back tomorrow. So Abhimanyu, if we're talking to you again tomorrow, that means something good happened. So thank you for your time, Abhimanyu, and thank you, Irene.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Irene, for such amazing commentary. Like when I watched during in the morning, it was amazing how you guys were explaining such ideas for everyone. Thank you.
Wow. That's really awesome of you to say. Well, we'll close the show with that. Irene, I'd be remiss if I didn't give you the final word, so I'm going to let you do the official sign-off.
Well, thank you once again, Mike. I mean, it's such a pleasure to be commentating with you as always. And tomorrow we'll be coming back for the knockout and we'll see who is going to win the under 16 group because the winner will take away $10,000. It's, I mean, the total price is $10,000. The first winner will get 3,000. Sorry, it's been a long day at the office and it's 2 a.m. in Jakarta right now.
That's okay. I understand. $10,000 is the commentary fee. We'll talk about that later. That's going to be at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Central Europe Time, and a little bit earlier for our fans in Jakarta. That's all for today. See everybody tomorrow in about 20 hours. ChessKid Youth Championship Finals coming at you. Hasta mañana.
Bye.